Okay, Parrots, have a drink of this. Tell me what you think. Well? You like it? What do you think? You like it too? Oh well, must just be me then. So it looks like millions of people and tropical birds like Vimto. And Mark certainly likes the company that makes it, so let's see what he has to say in this, episode 21 of The Desert Island Investor. No, you're not having any more. There's a 2-can limit. This episode of the podcast is generously hosted by Progressive Equity Research. Visit their website at progressive-research.com. Okay, Mark, well, this time we're talking about a rare new addition to the portfolio. You operate a low churn strategy, and it's over 12 months since you last added a position. So who is it?
Well, it's another AIM stock, Nichols PLC, ticker NICL. To most people, that wouldn't mean much, but their primary product is the soft drink Vimto. So while we've been marooned on this island, you've produced a nice fresh pineapple juice, a coconut milk, and even a mango presse. But every now and again, I have a craving for a Vimto.
Right, okay. As usual, can we have the base numbers, please?
Currently, it has a capitalisation of 380 million, a yield of 2.7%, and a PE of 18.3. And that's based on a current mid-share price of £10.16, and I bought in at £10.16.
All right, you've shared the who. What about the why?
It's a stock that has been on my watch list for years and years, and I've never pulled the trigger. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily the best point for me to get in, but it was a case of really, if not now, when. It has a number of attributes that I like. It's been around a long time. It was founded in 1908 by John Nichols, who was born not far from me in Blackburn. The company is profitable with good returns. It has a strong brand. There is a founding family with still a large shareholding. It's 36%, and there's members of the family on the board as non-execs. John Nichols, who is the grandson of the founder, he's been with the company since 1971. He was director in 1975. He became MD in 86. Became the executive chair, and then the non-exec chair in 2007 until 2023. But he remains on the board. So you would expect he knows what he's doing. And there's also John's son, Matthew, who's been in the business since 2006. And he has a hands-on role as commercial director. And then there's that net cash that I've said before. It always appeals. And that is some 67 million, which is 17.6% of that market capitalization.
Okay, if we look at soft drinks generally, they've often proved to be very lucrative businesses. I mean, Coca-Cola and Pepsi are two absolute giants, aren't they?
Yeah, they're massive companies, and they just keep growing. They keep squeezing out growth, and historically, it's been a very good sector. And on the UK market, there are several other options. Britvic has a market capitalisation of 2.41 billion, Fever Tree 1.3 billion, and AG Bar, which I previously owned. They're the manufacturers of Iron Brew. Their capitalisation is 677 million. So Nichols is the smallest of these. Now, first and foremost, you need a good product, but soft drink brands are heavily marketed. Back in the day with the temperance movement in full flow, I would expect there were a number of soft drink businesses thrashing it out. And if you look at Nichols' website, there have been a number of promotional pushes over its long history. It was originally marketed as a herbal tonic, Vim Tonic, and gave the drinker vim and vigor, apparently. Does a product take care of itself, or is heavy marketing obligatory? When we worked together, Your job was to market me, and you were only able to succeed in raising my profile to mediocre. Now, back in 2013, Glaxo sold Lucozade and Ribena to Suntory for $1.35 billion. So that's over 10 years ago. You might have to re-look at that valuation. Now, I'm not sure what the weighting was attributed to Ribena, but that's another cordial type drink. At the end of the day, it's a blackcurrant-based soft drink that surely others could replicate easily. The question is it all down to marketing? What would happen to Vimto if you culled the marketing spend?
The UK soft drinks market as a whole has seen almost continual growth between 2014 and 2022, according to the figures I'm looking at. And the soft drinks market value amounts to over £18 billion in 2022. So, yeah, it's a massive market and very, very dependent on marketing spend.
What is interesting is the mystique that the company has been able to generate about the secret recipe, apparently entrusted to a select few. And it's a mixture, I haven't got the recipe, but apparently it's a mixture of grape, blackcurrant and raspberry, along with a blend of essences, herbs and spices, some 23 separate ingredients. So perhaps penetrating the Nichols laboratory is a plot for Ethan Hunt in the next Mission Impossible film. I'm a Vimto drinker, perhaps just a couple of glasses per week, and have been for many years, and it's my go-to cordial. And it's a product I just throw into the shopping trolley without thinking. Consumer businesses love customers like me. I do occasionally buy Ribena or Belvoir, or I think it's pronounced Beaver ginger cordial. But when I do, these are more conscious decisions. Until doing this podcast, I'd never really analysed this non-registering of this loyalty to this brand. And why should I? It's a bottle of cordial. It's hardly high up on my life priorities. So, Paul, again, any thoughts? Do we just reach a certain age and then just shop out of habit?
I guess we do. I don't like Vimto. I like Ribena. I don't like Vimto, and as a child, I recall one of my school chums telling me that it was an anagram of vomit, which I took great pleasure in telling everybody who did like Vimto that it was an anagram of vomit. If the flavour is appealing, that's it. I mean, soft drinks is nearly almost 100% subjective decision making when you buy it, and if you like it and they don't change the recipe, you'll keep on buying it. But I mean, some products, they make the mistake of changing it. I mean, Vimto are obviously doing very well, but woe betide them if they change the recipe. My friend is particularly keen on Ryvita, and Ryvita changed their recipe recently, and she was horrified. And she brought a pack of the old Ryvita around and the new one, and they do taste decidedly different, and not for the better, I have to say. Like you say about that being a closely guarded recipe, it's not a case that they don't need to let anybody else get hold of that. They just need to not change it.
Yeah, well, thanks for the vomit contribution, Paul. We really can't take you anywhere, can we? All right. Well, I am a cordial and a carbonated drinker. I don't know about you. You've mentioned you occasionally drink Ribena, and besides the Coke that you drink that goes into your favorite tipple, Cuba Libre, do you buy any other types of soft drinks or fizzy drinks, carbonated drinks?
I don't know. I mean, my parents were, they dissuaded me from fizzy drinks, and that's pretty much stayed with me through my adult life. I have lemonade for Pimm's and tonic water for gin. Okay.
Right. Well, on brand loyalty then, for your when you talk about your Coke, is the brand important? We're talking about brands and the Vimto brand, but is the Coke brand important to you? I remember, when we look at Fever Tree, that has done very, very well on the growth of the gin market, and their marketing strapline, when it's if 3/4 of the gin and tonic is the tonic, make sure you use the best. I think that was very clever.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I can tell the difference in the flavour of cola. So I use the original Coca-Cola as a mixer. But aside from once on holiday when we were given a decidedly dodgy tonic water, I can't honestly tell the difference between supermarket tonic water and the premium brands like Fever Tree. I used to buy little cans of Schweppes tonic water, but they were very expensive. I think about £5.50 for 12 little cans. So now I just buy a few 1 litre bottles of Tesco tonic water for 65p. So I'll have a few gin and tonics in the evening, and I'll probably throw a third of the bottle away because it doesn't keep its fizz. But even wasting a bit of tonic water is considerably cheaper. And of course, the bottles are recyclable.
Okay, well, I seem to remember Vimto, a Vimto ad from many, many years ago. How do you drink yours? Now, some drink it hot. There's cordial and there's carbonated. And what I find interesting is that if you buy cordial and want a carbonated drink, you can just simply add a bottle of supermarket own label sparkling water, and that's an nth of the price of a carbonated can. However, pre-made carbonated is a massive market. We've talked about Coke and Pepsi, but I've never seen a cola brand cordial for that matter. Perhaps Coke and Pepsi were determined not to dilute. Do you like that, Paul? See what I did there? The margins that they enjoy. So do we just buy pre-mixed cans and bottles again and pay that extra just for that pure convenience?
It's just absolutely convenience. I bought a friend a soda stream for Christmas a few years ago because she liked fizzy drinks and was complaining about the price. And we tried it out. And of course, that does have a kind of a cordial cordial cola that you use with the soda stream device. And it tasted all right to me. But to be honest with you, other than Christmas Day, I don't think she ever used it. Anyway, it's all very well talking about these aspects of pop, but at the end of the day, it's all about profits and good returns. So what are they?
Well, revenue for 2023 was 170.7 million, and profit before tax was 24.3 million. And return on capital employed is 26.3%, which is pretty good. So if you need lots of capital, like we discussed in a business like Smurfit Kappa a number of episodes ago, with all that heavy machinery and kit undergoing attrition, the business has to do a lot more heavy lifting to make a return. And this is relatively an asset-light business. They're producing this syrup and distributing it and marketing it around the world. But employees are another capital expense. And we mentioned in the recent Me group, we pointed out that they were employee light and generated £249,539 per employee. Well, in comparison, Nichols of 571 employees, that's 307 group and 264 parents. And that works out at 297,723 per employee. So that's even better.
So Nichols started as, and still is, a Northwest business, but it has established markets elsewhere.
Yes, they were based in Salford and then Wythenshawe, both in Lancashire. And now the HQ is in Newton-le-Willows, which is in Merseyside. But they are very big in developing economies. And I'm not just referring to Yorkshire. According to their website, in 1919, Vimto was trademarked in Guyana. So this showed some foresight and ambition for a product that had only been launched in 1908. And in 1924, a Nichols family friend took samples over to a bottling plant in India. And this went down well with the troops and also the locals, and resulted in India becoming the first country to receive concentrate for local production. But the product is very well established in Africa and the Middle East, where it's extremely popular during Ramadan. Now, most Muslims don't drink alcohol. So what do they turn to celebrate? And I follow trends and look for tailwinds. And if you look at Muslims as a demographic, it's the fastest growing religious group. Now, according to the Pew Research Center, Muslims accounted for 23.2% of the world population back in 2010 and are projected to be 29.7% by 2050. When the overall population itself will be larger. And this is expected to be around what we're calling peak human. Now, of course, all these projections can be wrong on either end, but it's the best we can really work with. And who knows? There might be widespread uptake in drinking of real ale, but I doubt it. I've several Muslim pals out in Mauritius, Nawaz and Bashir, to name a couple, and I hope they're listening. And we share a Phoenix lager and a rum together, and they're very good company. However, in general, from what I've observed of the Islamic faith, it's one where the culture does not easily melt. Now, in 2023, Nichols celebrated their 100th Ramadan season. So they're not the new kids on the block, and they're deeply entrenched in these markets, and they're established, and they know them well. And I would suggest it'll take something to oust them. Now, Ramadan runs for a month, but I'm wondering why Vimtos are not more consistent throughout the year. So what do people drink for the other 11 months? Is it just water? I don't know. If anybody has an insight, then just please let us know.
So how big is that export market then?
Well, the UK core market is 74.4%. And then Africa is 13%, the Middle East 7.6%, and rest of the world 5%. And they sell to over 60 countries. So it's a good spread. They are an export champion.
And focusing on the core UK market, the trend in recent years amongst the young is more teetotalism and moderate drinking.
Yes, there's lots of articles on this, and one such reports that alcohol consumption has dropped 16% in the last decade, and particular Gen Z are particularly abstemious. With greater discussion of units consumed, recommended units. We've got things like dry January. There's an explosion of alcohol-free beers, etc. And it's a far cry, Paul, from our salad days when alcohol was really a social lubricant. Any thoughts on the youth of today turning their back on alcohol?
I can only assume that the drugs are getting cheaper and better.
I mean, you said that, Paul. A lot of people. You see a lot of young people vaping now, don't you? Not necessarily. They've not gone down from cigarettes down to vaping. They've just taken up vaping as a fix, haven't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think some vapes are still have nicotine in them. I think vaping is just a different nicotine delivery system.
Right.
Not all of them. Some of them are non-nicotine based. It's early days with vaping still, I think, as far as the research is concerned. But yeah, I think anything that stops people, smoking cigarettes, which are proven to be extremely damaging, is good. They do other things though, other than Vimto.
Yeah, well, Vimto's they're by far the biggest brand, and they seem to try and produce as many variants as possible using that brand name. They do a caffeine energy drink, but there is also the original Slush Puppy, Levi Roots Caribbean drinks, and there's something called Icy, which is, I'll try and say this, the Swizzle Fizzle Freshy Freeze Frozen Drink. I don't think I'll ever be able to order that. I don't think I'll ever be asking for that. And something very appealing called Star Slush. But it's Vimto. So, we're talking about USP, unique selling point. And I always think that there's very little that's truly unique. Yes, there's only one Vimto, and it's got a unique taste. But there are many other alternatives of soft drink, as we've mentioned. But when it comes to having a malt, having that flavour distinction is about the best we can ask for. And again, have you anything you'd like to add, Paul? With all the brains and kit in the world, surely Vimto could be reverse engineered.
Well, if that happened, the world would get another Vimto. And I didn't like the first one, so it wouldn't bother me. How Vimto lovers would react is anyone's guess. I think a competitor would have to have a huge buying incentive and price difference to poach Vimto's customer base. Plus, it would cost them a fortune to compete in terms of advertising and marketing. So I think the cost of competing is the moat, really. Having said that, no business is without its risks and threats, and the soft drink industry has something to contend with a few years ago with the introduction in the UK of the Soft Drinks Industry Levy. What's that all about?
Well, levy is another word for a tax, Paul. This was brought in to help tackle obesity, particularly childhood obesity, in 2018, and consisted of two rates. There was a lower rate of 5 grams per 100 millilitres and a higher rate at 8 grams. Now, back then, Nichols were able to make their whole range levy compliant by replacing sugar with sweeteners. Now, I personally cannot tell the difference between a diet or a full fat, and I don't know if this is detracted from the taste for other consumers. What about you?
I'm pretty certain that people who are worried about their weight will drink Diet Coke because it kind of negates the guilt of drinking it. I think it's the burger and chips that they tend to consume it with that's the real problem. And okay, you tell me that these taxes or levies are prevalent in other countries too?
Yeah, many other European countries, Malaysia, a couple of countries I've been to recently, Mauritius and Chile, Mexico, Singapore, Philippines, and many others, including key markets for Nichols, which are Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, where a 50% tax was introduced around 2020. And this was apparently introduced to combat obesity, but also a means of raising tax other than from oil. So you'd have to go somewhere for Vimto and other soft drinks to replace oil revenues, I'd suggest. Now, unlike the UK, this tax was applied to whether the drinks contained sugar or sweeteners, so reformulation was not an option. And unsurprisingly, the share price took a hit at the time. So really, was it really about tackling obesity or revenue raising? Now, a tax of this size, you would expect to trigger some behavioural changes. Now, when we were children, Paul, we were consuming these sugar-laden drinks. Obesity was not the problem it is now. We were out playing, running around. We were feral. When your mother called you in, your heart sank. And I'm sure I've got a school just down across the road from me, and there's no end of cars dropping their children off. I'm sure you used to walk to school like I did with our gas masks thrown over our shoulder. Now,
Not that long ago.
Yeah. But, dodging the Luftwaffe. But, today children they're more sedentary. There's more traffic on the roads. And then there's things like phones and iPads and a myriad of TV channels. Children don't need to play out and interact physically with other children to entertain themselves. So, I look back at my primary school, St. John's, and there was only one child I would describe as being, poorly. And it's no surprising, we were children. We nicknamed him Fatty, as children do. But, adults too, broadly, they don't have the same labour-intensive jobs. We don't send people down the pit anymore, hacking away at a seam of coal. So Nichols, in a way, have been a victim of the changing nature of humans. And, diabetes, for one, is an increasing problem. Look at the stellar performance of Danish company Novo Nordisk, who manufacture insulin. And if things had stayed the way they were in the 1970s, where there's all, running around, perhaps there'd be no SBT, which is a sweetened beverage tax. We perhaps might not have had that. So, in the last week, I climbed Ben Nevis, and what did I take in my water bottle? Water. We're also in the habit now of having a jug of tap water on our coffee table, and we just put some sliced lemon in that. Although I'm sure some medical professional would say that the acid content is not good for me. So I'm sure doctors would much rather we stop drinking soft drinks, full stop, and replace this simply with water. On the whole, they're not essential to life. And I doubt that one day soft drinks will be banned, and we'll be having a Vimto or a Ribena in some kind of speakeasy, Paul. And, any thoughts on, the soft drinks industry and their part on the war on obesity?
Well, you can make cordials at home and put as much sugar in as you want. So I don't think consumers are scared of not getting the sugar fix. But I can see what the government, or why the government are putting pressure on the industry, because soft drink consumers will basically take anything they're offered as long as it tastes nice. It's an almost 100% subjective choice, where flavour is the king, and the ingredients or the sugar content are highly unlikely to concern them.
All right. Well, another problem that's that may arise at some point is to tackle the packaging that these consumer companies produce, often littering the oceans. And again, rather than the responsibility being placed on individuals to prevent littering. The pressure seems to be placed on companies that manufacture the product.
And quite rightly so. I think the majority of bottle litter comes from people who buy water and soft drinks when they're out and about. And the water industry in particular has peddled a lot of unqualified medical nonsense about the need to stay hydrated for years. And unfortunately, we have a generation that's all too happy to soak up that marketing, well, I call it bullshit. I've said in a previous episode, I have no idea how anyone of my grandfather's generation survived without carrying little bottles of water or Vimto around with them everywhere. So, but there were no mass deaths from dehydration from what I can recall. But I mean, on the basis of an investment point of view, on portfolio management, was this just a small starter position for you? No,
this was a larger than usual starter position. It's about just taking about 1.25% of the portfolio, and this is because of some accrued dividends that landed in May, which were which is the most productive month for me for dividends, and some final dividends landed from me, Greg's, Smurfit, Somero, and Central Asia Metals, and these are holdings number 1, 3, 4, 6, and 9. So you can see that those larger holdings have all dropped about the same time.
And as you said at the top of the podcast, another AIM stock. So what's your AIM LSE split at the moment?
Well, we had a question from Declan Hughes about 6 months ago about my exposure to AIM, and this was 40.4%. So this is now 45.9%, and seems to be the consistent direction of travel.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much indeed for that review of your new purchase. I hope that it turns out to be sweet and fizzy and profitable. And I will obviously catch you on the next one. Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only and it is not financial advice. If you have a question for Mark for our Question in a Bottle podcast, just complete the form on our website, thedesertislandinvestor.co.uk. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.